Nick Vyas.
Well, good morning, everyone. And this is our fourth annual Global Supply Chain Excellence Summit. This is our first two-day event. And I'm glad to see that many of you are still here today. So that's a great sign that I think we must have done something right the first day. So without further ado, I want to actually introduce to you and provide the welcome speech and perspective about Marshall School of Business. Is a great friend and a vice dean of our faculty, Gareth James. Gareth, please come on up. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Nick, for the introduction. Nick asked me to come up here and talk a little bit about our specialized master's programs and what's going on at Marshall and USC and everything else, and do it within 10 minutes. So I better get started. So I just wanted to have a quick slide on USC Marshall. So things are going really well for the business school at the moment. Just to give you a little bit background on the school itself. So it's a pretty big operation. It's a $290 million annual operating budget. We have almost 250 full-time faculty just teaching in Marshall alone, about another 50 part-time faculty, almost 300 staff supporting them, about 4,000 undergraduate students, and almost 2,000 graduate students. And it's interesting, the mix on the graduate students, the total population of graduate students hasn't changed dramatically over the last few years, but the mix of those students has. So it used to be primarily MBA students, but over the last few years there's been a sort of dramatic increase in the fraction of those students that are specialized masters, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We had a big recruiting campaign last year to teach all of those students. We hired about 30 new full-time faculty, about 20 of them tenure track, so a significant increase in the population there. And just to give you an idea of how many classes we teach about 1,100 different class sessions every year at Marshall. That's spread out over 5 different buildings that make up the business school, including a brand new one for Teeter Hall, which just opened a few weeks ago on the corner of Figueroa and Exposition. So it's a 100,000 square foot undergraduate building. It's a fantastic space for our undergraduate students, and we can actually rent it out on Sundays for religious services as well. It looks sort of like a cathedral. So I want to spend most of the time talking about specialized masters in Nick and my department, data science and operations, which is probably most relevant to this group here. But just to give you a quick overview of the specialized master's programs in general at Marshall. So over the last 4 years, we've had a dramatic increase in the number of these programs that we're offering and the number of students. So we have about 6 new specialized master's programs just in the last 4 years. So in the areas of entrepreneurship and innovation, a very interesting one in social entrepreneurship, some more traditional ones, MS in finance, MS in marketing, and then, of course, the data sciences and operations ones are business analytics and, of course, the global supply chain management program. So to give you a sense of how many students we're teaching in these programs, so collectively for our specialized masters, we had about 330 students just starting this fall in those programs. Compare that to our full-time MBA program, which we have about 225 students a year. Of course, that's a 2-year program, but you get a sense that these specialized masters are starting to represent a significant fraction of our population. I think it's up to the revenue from these programs is something like 15% of all of our graduate tuition revenue, so they're becoming a fairly significant chunk. Those students came from 2,500 applications last year, which represents about a 50% increase year over year in applications, so you can see there's a very large growth going on there. We're not the only ones seeing this growth in specialized masters, but I think we have been one of the more successful schools in growing these programs, not just in terms of quantity, but quality. We've been very careful in our growth targets for these programs. We're not just growing one program to 300 students a year or something like that. We're keeping the quality up in every one of them. And by the way, these numbers don't include another interesting sort of specialized type program that we have, which is our Masters of Business for Veterans program. So this is a fantastic program for military, either veterans who have left the military or current military. It's basically a one-year EMBA style type program. They come down for 2 intense days every second weekend, and basically augments their leadership training that they've got in the military with basic business training. We recently doubled the cohort size in that program. It's been so successful. Every one of those students that graduates gets snapped up because everyone loves the combination of the leadership and the business training there. Okay, but what I want to concentrate mostly on are the two DSO specialized programs. So the first one is the Business Analytics program. So that program is only 2 years old. We started fall 2014. The first year we started late. We only had about 20 students in the program. The second year there was a dramatic increase in applications and we had about 50 students. This last year we had 800 applications and we've got about 75 students in the program. We could easily grow it more than that, but we don't want to. We want to ensure that any kind of growth is on a sustainable basis. So next year we may grow it to maybe around 100. We haven't made a final decision on that. But when you look at the quality of these students, you can see why there's so much potential to grow this. These are generally, it's a junior population. They only have about 1.5 years of work experience, but in terms of the quality, it's extremely high. Average GMAT of about 722, which is actually a fair bit higher than our full-time MBA program even. High GPAs. We had 2 Fulbright scholars apply this last year, and one of them's in the program now. These programs have started to be ranked by a number of organizations. So, for example, Financial Engineer has started ranking MS programs in general, and our Business Analytics one was actually ranked #1, even though it was a very new program. So it's a successful program. Just to give you a feeling for the sorts of things they're doing in this program. So they basically break it down into 3 fields: computational, statistical learning and optimization, and then business strategy. So unlike sort of maybe a more engineering-centric type degree program, the emphasis is not just on technical skills here, but a solid mixture of the technical and business training so that the students come out of these programs ready to hit the ground running. They're very employable, not just pure technical type training. At the start of the program, students didn't have a lot of electives they could take, but now as the program's growing, we've managed to add in a number of new elective classes. So they have options in marketing analytics, fraud, web, games analytics, operations, and even healthcare analytics. So this year the students have a lot of options in terms of specializations. Placement, as you might imagine for such a hot area and a high quality program, very good placement. So every one of our students from the first cohort, which is the only one that's totally gone through the program so far, 100% placement on those. And one of the attractions and reasons that it's relatively easy to place these students is the STEM certification, which basically allows these students, if they're from overseas, to work for at least for almost 3 years without requiring a special H-1B visa or anything like that. So it makes it very easy for employers to hire them, and then potentially longer run as well. One last thing on the analytics program. So there's been a fantastic collaboration in that program between LA City and Marshall. So they recently received a certificate of appreciation from Mayor Garcetti based on several projects that the students have been working on with the city. So this is a great collaboration because it gives the students fantastic practical applications, important real-world problems to apply their skills to. It's great for the city because it helps them solve some questions that they're trying to answer. So the 2 main projects they've worked on so far is this traffic collision analytics one and workers' comp project. So I expect that collaboration is just going to grow over time. Now, for this group here, the Global Supply Chain Management program is probably of the most interest. So that's an interesting program because it's split into 2 parts. There's 2 distinct cohorts, a pure online program and an in-residence program. The online program started first 3 years ago in fall of 2013. It was so successful that the second year we added a residential version of that program. Collectively, about 270 applications last year. We have coming in about 80 students, almost evenly split between online and residential program. The demographics of those two programs are a little different though. The residential one is again a more junior population, but also high quality students, a GMAT of about 690, which is comparable to our full-time MBA program, GPA of almost 3.5. The online program, from a lot of parts of the US, more senior people, management level, about 10.5 years average work experience in that population. Heavy emphasis, again, similar to the business analytics program, on experiential learning, consulting projects with companies and such like. So when they graduate, they've got a lot of practical training. Again, they can sort of hit the ground running very fast. Strong placement record as well, over 90% placement 3 months after graduation from the last cohort. And for those interested in internships, almost 100% of them received them last summer. It's, again, a STEM certified program, so it has the same advantages as the business analytics one in terms of placement of students and being easy to employ these students long run. Okay, and then lastly, so obviously a big part of the global supply chain program is the center as well. And when we set up that program, we set up the center at the same time, and Nick's done a fantastic job growing that center at the same time as we've grown the program. So that collaboration between them has been a fantastic plus, and it's a model that we're looking to emulate in some of our other master's programs. So it provides the students with access to high quality connections and interactions with folks like you. Obviously running this summit and the Industry Network Connect evening tonight and such like is a big plus that's associated with that center, and I think it really helps both the students and the interactions that go on there. Okay, so I think I've used up my 10 minutes now, so thank you for your time.
So Gareth, thank you so very much for providing the in-depth view of our business school. So if you think about it, this kind of a two-day event, besides having the resources within the school, it would be almost difficult to execute if it's not the support for many of you. But I would like to take an opportunity to recognize some of the committee members that they actually drive distances beyond the conference call on a weekly basis to make sure that they invest physical, mental, and in some cases even financial means to make this experience come true. So I would like to recognize some of my committee members to come up and really be acknowledged for their incredible efforts to create this opportunity for all of us to come together and collaborate. So first, from our Student Alumni Board, Alvin Moreno. Please come on up. So Alvin graduated from the program 2 years ago, and he works for the Nestle, and he has taken a senior promotion post-graduation. So we're very proud of him, and he's been incredibly engaged in driving the supply chain risk topic in our community. Congratulations. The next three individuals we're going to recognize, they're on an advisory board, but these individuals incredibly invested so much time, energy. So I'd like to first welcome Kent Hines. Kent. So every other Friday, we sometimes host this setup meetings on a Friday at 2 o'clock. Take up the traffic jam. He drives distance out to come and attend those meetings in person. Thank you very much. Thanks again. This is yours. You want to put your, there you go. There is a fire on. Once again, Ella Kennedy. Ella? Is she here? Ella Kennedy? Okay, Ella must have stepped out. We'll recognize her. Last but not the least, Stephanie Hughes. Stephanie, let's give a round of applause. Okay, so they two must have stepped out. This was supposed to be a surprise, so they were not notified. So thank you very much. So before we actually have Gareth step up the stage, one of our advisory board member wanted to see all the research that we talked about yesterday. You guys heard Port Solutions, Professor Fang, Grace Sosik, and then the panelists talked about how we're engaged with the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. So our advisory board member, Chris Gopal, actually said, I would like to recognize our Student Research Excellence Award. And he's opted to contribute $1,000 for this prize. And it is my pleasure to welcome this nominee, Shakira. Is she here? Shakira, come on up. Chris Gopal, do you want to come up? Oh, yeah. So Shakira has been working on a mathematical modeling of the port with the student team and the faculty. And it has done some incredible work, and we want to appreciate her efforts. Thank you so very much. Chris, come on up. Oh, this is, yeah, this is. Is there a certificate for Chuck? Oh, right there. There you go. You want to pass this up?
Congratulations. Great work.
So Chuck is in the mail.
Okay.
Usual worker.
Hey, Chris, you want to just take a quick picture? Okay, there you go. And then the fight on. See, I'm reminding you now. Okay, thank you. And I think Ella, come on up. Ella Kennedy's right here. What an incredible individual. She takes the conference call from overseas, never misses our planning meeting committee, and an incredibly devotee of our center. So thank you so very much for your efforts. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Stephanie Hughes, please come to the front. Stephanie Hughes.
This is what we call the delayed just in time.
No, Nick, this is what we call a dramatic entrance.
So there's a very interesting story. When we launched the center and the program, I was actually in India promoting our supply chain initiative through the ambassador's office, and I was speaking at one of the events, and that's where I actually met Stephanie. So it's been 4 years she's been part of this center, every conference, and she has been an incredible resource and an asset and a personal friend. Thank you so much for all your work.